headlines of this hour on VTV News. Vietnam signals renewed focus on a digital economy and transformation. And this year, we welcome the 70th anniversary of Geneva Accords. In our world news, General Assembly debates Security Council's rising veto use.
Broadcasting from Hanoi, the capital of Vietnam. VTV News starts right now.
Good morning. It is 8 a.m. local time in Hanoi, and you're watching VTV News. I'm Huyền Trần with the top stories. Prime Minister Phạm Minh Chính chaired the 8th meeting of the National Committee on Digital Transformation on Wednesday, aiming to find strategies to strengthen the digital economic sector. The national digital transformation work has produced some positive results this year. Notably, over 86 million chip-based citizens' IDs were issued, 1.5 billion requests for information verification were submitted, and 46 million applications were sent through the National Public Service Portal. The information technology industry gained more than $36 billion in revenue in the first quarter, up nearly 18% over the same period last year. However, the Prime Minister also pointed out some limitations. He underlined the 3 enhancements in a digital transformation, including raising public awareness of its importance, prioritizing resources to strengthen its potential, and promoting public-private cooperation for its development. The government leader also emphasized 5 steps in a digital transformation, which are promoting institutional improvement, digital infrastructure development, innovation and entrepreneurship, human resources training, and cybersecurity. The semiconductor industry has an important role to play in the digital transformation process and serves as the foundation of 3 revolutionary transformations: digital transformation, green transformation, and smart transformation. This remark was made by Prime Minister Phạm Minh Chính at a conference on human resource development to serve the semiconductor industry held in Hanoi on Wednesday.
In his opening speech, the Vietnamese government leader stated that digital transformation is an objective requirement, strategic choice, and a top priority for development of every country, including Vietnam. This comes as the semiconductor industry is developing in a number of countries. However, due to the complicated world situation, there is a shortage of semiconductor chips, and a trend has occurred in shifting semiconductor production and supply chains, in which Vietnam has been identified as one of a few nations to have captured attention. Besides advantageous factors, the country must meet other conditions such as hard and soft infrastructure, especially human resources, in a bid to serve the development of semiconductor industry. The government and ministries and sectors have stayed active in taking advantage of the trend, including building a project to train 50,000 semiconductor engineers.
Training human resources for the semiconductor industry is a breakthrough in the process of training high-quality human resources. The authorities should have plans to diversify training forms and call for high-quality human resources in the semiconductor industry to come, design and work in Vietnam. We need to diversify resources for training, including the state resources, social resources, and resources from the people. We should also promote public-private cooperation in human resource training.
The Prime Minister also underlined the need to focus on tasks and solutions in order to achieve this goal in the shortest possible time. It is therefore essential to clearly define the task of the government, ministries, sectors, localities, jointly create breakthroughs aimed at achieving the set goals.
Prime Minister Phạm Minh Chính spoke highly of cooperation between the Russian Federal Bar Association and the Vietnam Lawyers Association, while receiving Chairman Sergei Stepashin, who is also former Prime Minister of Russia, in Hanoi on Tuesday. He proposed that the 2 countries continue strengthening political trust, facilitating high-level visits, removing difficulties and obstacles in economic and investment projects in the spirit of harmonizing interests and sharing risk. On global and regional issues, he called for continued coordination at multilateral forums for the sake of peace, cooperation and development in the region and the world. Stepanov, for his part, affirmed that Russia treasures and wants to fortify relations with Vietnam across various fields. He also personally committed to further promoting the bilateral relationship, especially in the areas and topics recommended by the Prime Minister. Acting State President Võ Thị Ánh Xuân on Wednesday hosted a reception for the Japanese ambassador to Vietnam, Yamada Takeo, who came to bid farewell to her. Congratulating Yamada on his successful tenure, the Vietnamese leader spoke highly of his efforts to bolster the Vietnam-Japan relations in various fields. She expressed her delight at the deep and practical cooperation across economy and trade, and the two countries are expanding collaboration in such new areas such as high technology, semiconductor, and IT. Yamada, for his part, affirmed that he will make his utmost efforts to back the development of the Vietnam-Japan friendship, helping deepen their comprehensive strategic partnership. On April 24th, Vietnamese party and state leaders convened with Algerian counterparts and engaged in discussions with representatives from the Indonesian Ministry of Foreign Affairs. More in the following.
Lê Hoài Trung, Secretary of the Communist Party of Vietnam Central Committee and Chairman of the Communist Party of Vietnam Central Committee's Commissions for External Relations, on April 24th met with Murad Lamodi, member in charge of external relations at the Algeria's National Liberation Front Central Committee, and Secretary General of Algeria's National Liberation Front, Abdelkrim Benbach. Both parties pledged to intensify exchanges and meeting across all levels. They also agreed to initiate discussions and sign a cooperation agreement between the two parties, thus solidifying the political foundation for bilateral relations.
Vietnamese Minister of Foreign Affairs Bùi Thanh Sơn and his Indonesia counterpart on Wednesday discussed measures to further strengthen the robust strategic partnership between the two countries across various fields. The two ministers agreed to continue promoting high-level changes and interactions, enhancing the effectiveness of existing cooperation mechanisms, completing the 2024 to 2028 action plan, and enhancing political trust. Both are committed to continuing coordinating and supporting each other in multilateral and regional organizations and forums.
General To Lâm, Minister of Public Security, participated in the 12th International Security Conference held in St. Petersburg, Russia on Wednesday. During the opening session, Minister To Lâm emphasized the escalating threat of cybercrime due to the rapid development of global information technology, resulting in a significant repercussion. To combat such crimes effectively, he underscored the necessity of bolstering multilateral cooperation through platforms like Interpol, Europol, and ASEAN-Pol. Prior to this, Minister To Lâm held discussion with Nikolai Patrushev, Secretary of the Security Council of the Russian Federation, to explore avenues for enhancing cooperation between law enforcement agencies of both nations. Additionally, Minister To Lâm engaged in a working session with the St. Petersburg city government and paid respects at the monument of President Ho Chi Minh in the city. Cashless payment has emerged as a new normal in today's digital society. However, some aspects of technology hasn't caught up to trend, as the number of point-of-sale or POS machines are falling short of actual demands. To tackle this problem, Vietnam has introduced Soft POS solution, a technology that allows merchants to accept card payments directly on smartphones.
For a young customer like Phương Anh, cashless payment has become part of daily life. The introduction of soft POS has made it even easier for her to purchase.
When using a card, I had to enter PIN code, swipe the card, and wait for the machine to print out invoices. Now all of these steps are done using a single smartphone.
Shop owners can also benefit from this new solution.
The new soft POS machine cost me $8 per month in rent, excluding higher transaction fee. Cash flow management is made transparent. When one transaction is completed, a notification is sent right on the apps, so cashiers and shop owners can verify immediately.
As one of the available cashless payment methods, tap-to-phone solutions accept card payments from Visa, Master, NAPAS, or Apple Pay, thereby presenting small and medium enterprises and business households more to choose from.
Customers only need to download an app and follow our verification instructions. After that, they can accept card payment.
The tap-to-pay solution is expected to promote Vietnam as a cashless payment country, thereby attracting more international tourists.
Coming up next on VTV News. Central Highlands need a drastic solution to fight drought. And this year we welcome the 70th anniversary of Geneva Accords.
When it comes to business, it's crucial to choose a smart location with global impact. And Vietnam might just be the location for you. Connect worldwide to advanced logistics networks. Smart hub for technology and innovation. A dynamic business ecosystem. An environment with a competitive edge.
You're watching our VTV News Live. The Vietnam Trade Office in Singapore, along with several domestic businesses, participated in the region's largest FHA food and beverage event held in Singapore. This is a great opportunity for Vietnamese businesses to promote their products and seek international partners.
At the FHA Food and Beverage event, Vietnamese ambassador to Singapore Mai Phước Dũng and international guests cut the ribbon to open the Vietnamese product display area and visited the booths. This year, main products such as candy, fruit juice, and pepper at the 8 Vietnamese booths have made good impression on international partners.
And the Vietnam Pavilion is an important part of it. Vietnam is an important producer of many different types of foodstuffs, and this show in Singapore is extremely important for meeting people for exports and also for looking at trends for new shows. So come here, come to this exhibition. This is where you need to be if you want to do business in Asia.
We have launched a line of canned fruit products, syrups, and smoothies. Our canned products only use locally sourced ingredients and have undergone years of research. For example, there are many brands that produce canned mango products.
According to the Vietnamese ambassador to Singapore, besides the opportunity to promote local products and connect with foreign partners, Vietnamese businesses can learn how to process food from other countries and understand global trends in this field.
We hope the state agencies, the Ministry of Industry and Trade, and business associations will support businesses in participating in more events like this.
This year's event is expected to have 60,000 participants, with 70 product display areas from 50 countries and territories around the world. Vietnamese businesses will participate in the event until this Friday.
The Central Highlands is home to over 5 million hectares of agricultural cultivated areas. It makes up more than 91% of the region's natural land. But the severity of this year's drought has turned the region's socio-economic situation upside down. Agricultural crops and also the set targets for this year's development have been challenged by extreme weather.
In the 40 degrees Celsius heat, farmers have to scrape layers of mud just to get water to save their rice crops. All is going to be in vain, as the areas of paddy fields are vast.
The water source up there has dried out. We can't find any alternatives. There is a small well in my garden, but the pumps are broken. I don't know what to do.
Rivers and streams dried up. The soil is burning and thousands of hectares of crops have died. Farmers are struggling to find water sources for irrigation and for daily use. Provinces in the Central Highlands have come up with temporary solutions, but more help is needed in the long run. The entire region has over 2,300 irrigation works due to harsh weather conditions and poor maintenance. Many have been damaged and degraded.
The Central Highlands need the government and ministries to pay more attention to speed up investment in construction of irrigation works. We need central-level policies to promote the development of watershed protection forests, to retain water and increase forest coverage in the region.
It is likely that from June onwards, El Niño will weaken, but impacts remain. People also need to change their crop structure to suit their current situation and apply advanced water-saving agricultural techniques into production.
Vietnam has achieved another significant milestone as yet another factory attains carbon neutrality, underscoring its commitment to offsetting emissions by absorbing an equivalent amount through various projects. This accomplishment represents a significant step forward in Vietnam's journey towards achieving its goal of net zero emissions by 2050. Under the carbon neutral certification, the Vietnam beverage factory has successfully neutralized over 3,400 tons of carbon emissions. These initiatives include implementing 6 strategies, such as energy-saving measures, utilizing leftover food as plant fertilizer, recycling cans, promoting bicycle and electric vehicle usage, and transitioning to digital record keeping. The Geneva Conference officially opened in April 1954 to discuss the post-war situation on the Korean Peninsula and Indochina. On July 21, 1954, the Geneva Accords were signed after 75 days of intense and complex negotiations, marking the first time in the nation's history for a guarantee of fundamental national rights of Vietnam, independence, sovereignty, unity, and territorial integrity. Alongside the victory of Dien Bien Phu, the Accords completely ended the colonial domination of the old imperialism that had lasted nearly 100 years in the country, ushering in a new chapter in the cause of national liberation and reunification.
On May 8, 1954, the Geneva Conference began discussing the situation in Indochina. 9 parties attended this conference with different strategic interests. After the victory at Dien Bien Phu, the Democratic Republic of Vietnam delegation led by Deputy Prime Minister Phạm Văn Đồng. On July 21, 1954, the Geneva Accords were signed after 75 days of intense negotiations. Peace was restored in Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia.
For the first time, the fundamental national rights of Vietnam, independence, sovereignty, unity, and territorial integrity had been affirmed in an international accords. Along with the Dien Bien Phu victory, the Geneva Accords completely ended the colonialism that lasted nearly 100 years in Vietnam.
President Ho Chi Minh understood that the victory at Dien Bien Phu gave a lot of strength to his negotiators in Geneva.
At the age of 103, Major General Huỳnh Đắc Hương still recalls the days after the Geneva Accords.
At that time, Inter-Region 5 was almost completely liberated. But then we had to withdraw troops for the northern side of the 17th parallel.
In 1956, the last French soldier left Vietnam. The north was completely liberated.
Throughout the process of negotiating, signing and implementing the accords, Vietnam consistently adhered to the principles of peace, national independence, and territorial integrity, while remaining agile and flexible with a strategy appropriate to the balance of power and the global and regional context in order to achieve strategic objectives.
In the diplomatic posture from the Geneva Conference, many valuable lessons were learned, among which the lesson of perseverance in protecting national interests still remains valid until this day.
The exhibition at Dien Bien Phu, a historical rendezvous, recently opened on a Tuesday afternoon at the Vietnam Military History Museum in Hanoi. The exhibition introduces more than 300 images, documents, and artifacts. Many of these were also made public for the first time. Some notable ones include the conclusion of General Commander-in-Chief Võ Nguyên Giáp at the Dien Bien Phu Campaign Staff Conference on February 7, 1954, the medium machine guns used by Hero Bế Văn Đàn's combatant unit in the battle at Mường Pồn district in Lai Châu province in December 1953, and the French troops' map of Dien Bien Phu. The exhibition honors the heroic victories and sacrifices of the martyrs in the fight for national liberation, and it will remain open until the end of May. In the island district of Lý Sơn, the worship of whales is a long-standing cultural tradition among fishermen, symbolizing gratitude and wishes for a safe and abundant sea harvest. Practicing this worship, Lý Sơn Island has built whale-worshipping tombs across the locality, including 2 colossal whale skeletons dating back 2 centuries. These artifacts have been restored and exhibited as local cultural heritage to attract tourists who's interested in learning indigenous customs.
The 2 colossal whale skeletons at the Lang Tân relic site in Dong An Vĩnh village, Lý Sơn district, were identified as Vietnam's largest preserved whale skeletons. The larger of the pair measures over 22 meters and is dubbed the Emperor of Dong Dinh, while the smaller specimen spanning 18 meters is known as the 2 deities of Đức Ngư.
The largest specimen is crowned the Emperor of Dong Dinh, while the smaller is dubbed the 2 deities of Đức Ngư. The worship of these deities date back 200 years ago, when the 2 great whales were washed ashore.
Following restoration efforts, the 2 whale skeletons have been included in local tourism initiatives. As a ritual, it has emerged as a signature of tourist attraction. By 2023, this tourist attraction alone has welcomed nearly 150,000 visitors. Most of them are drawn to see the near-intact skeleton with their own eyes.
It's not an overstatement to call these the largest intact skeletons in Southeast Asia. Thanks to that, we are able to attract investment in restoration facilities and technologies. While this can be a tourism product, it is still a sacred subject of worship of coastal culture.
The local authorities are finalizing documents to have the 2 colossal whale skeletons officially recognized as Vietnam's largest. Plans are underway to establish the Whale Museum as a must-visit for tourists during the upcoming Quảng Ngãi Tourism Week on Lý Sơn Island.
Coming up next in our world news. General Assembly debates Security Council's rising veto use. And a Russian deputy defense minister detained on a suspicion of bribery. Now moving on to our world news. The General Assembly on Tuesday debated veto power in the Security Council. Speaking at the debate, Assembly President Denis Francis emphasized that during heightened geopolitical tensions and ongoing and emerging crises, the unrestrained use of the veto would paralyze not only the Council itself, but the United Nations' ability to respond efficiently to questions of peace and security. The Assembly President added that if no action was taken, public confidence in the United Nations will increasingly crumble, with each veto cast perceived as a collective failure to act. During the debate, many ambassadors pointed out that the veto has been used 6 times in as many months regarding Palestine and the ongoing tensions in Gaza. The Russian Investigative Committee announced on Wednesday that it have detained Deputy Defense Minister Timur Ivanov on suspicion of accepting large bribes. The Deputy Defense Minister could face up to 15 years in prison if found guilty. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said a report on Ivanov's detention have been presented to President Vladimir Putin, according to a Russian news agency. Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu had been informed in advance of Ivanov's detention. Ivanov was appointed Deputy Defense Minister by presidential decree in May 2016. The European Parliament has given its final approval to a new regulation enabling the EU to prohibit the sale, import, and export of goods made using forced labor. Member state authorities and the European Commission will be able to investigate suspicious goods, supply chains, and manufacturers. If a product is deemed to have been used using forced labor, it will no longer be possible to enter the EU market. Shipments will also be intercepted at the EU's borders. Initial investigations are to be concluded within 30 days. The text now has to get a final formal approval from the EU Council. EU countries will have to enforce the legislation within the next 3 years. Arctic forces have long emerged as a symbol of the Northern Hemisphere, representing perseverance and fortitude. However, they have been driven near extinction across Scandinavia by hunters seeking their winter white fur. Scientists in Norway have launched a captive breeding program aimed at rebuilding the population of Arctic foxes in their natural habitat.
As climate change delivers more rain and less snow across northern Scandinavia, prey for Arctic foxes, lemmings and small rodents, are crashing in population numbers. Frozen rain on top of snow makes it hard for lemmings to dig burrows they need to stay warm, which means the foxes are struggling to find enough to eat. That's why the scientists breeding them in captivity are also maintaining more than 30 feeding stations across the alpine wilderness stocked with dog food kibble.
The aim of the captive breeding station is to produce pups, offspring, that are raised at the facility here, and then once they become adults, they're then released out into the wild, into various populations.
Fox pups are bred and raised in an outdoor fenced enclosure near Oppdal, a remote site some 400 kilometers north of Oslo, where scientists monitor their health and development and try to prevent them from being attacked by eagles before being released into the wild the following winter. As part of the state-sponsored program to restore Arctic foxes, Norway has been feeding the population for nearly 20 years.
I think we've come a long way in saving this species. We've already seen that the population is rising. We're getting larger populations, and we're getting more exchange of individuals between populations. But I still think we have some way to go before we can say that we've really saved the species.
Since 2006, the program has helped to boost the fox population from as few as 40 in Norway, Finland, and Sweden to around 550 across Scandinavia today. At the current population, scientists said it could take another 25 years to reach the program's goal of 2,000 Arctic foxes running free through Scandinavia.
Now let's take a look at the weather forecast. And that's all the news we have for this hour. To rewatch our program, you can download our mobile app at VTVgo or check out our YouTube channel, VTV4Go. Thank you for watching and see you next time.